The other day, actually like a week ago, I heard this one thing, and I totally forgot about it. I work over at Golden Gate Park, and behind me, sometimes working, there's some get up like these drug dealers. Sometimes when I'm working there, and one time shit was getting a little heated between two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this one guy. There's this big, 280-pound guy. And he was saying some shit. I'm like, oh, it's kind of funny. I wrote it down. I just thought it was kind of funny. And just jotted it down, put it in my pocket, and then I forgot about it. Forgot it was there. I came across it this morning when I was buying coffee to wake up. And here's what it says. It says, "Who wants to get their shit broke? I've been drinking milk for 6 months." Don't ask me.
I don't even know what it means, but it's just funny.
Who wants to get their shit broke? Really heavy emphasis. I put 6 months in bold, so it's really emphasized then.
He's calculating that 6 months out there.
I just think I don't know why, that's just funny to me, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, that's sometimes my morning. Just just to clarify, I'm not like, oh, it's so dangerous. Usually these dudes keep to themselves. They don't fuck with nobody. But when shit gets bad between them, it's just sometimes funny to listen to.
Sometimes it's weird stuff. That's like that time that hobo kicked me in the middle of the morning in fucking not industrial, but business district.
I'm like, get away from me!
Yeah, it wasn't like he was like attacking me. It was like he was afraid.
He's probably just tripping.
He just like, run! He jumps up and he kicks me and just hits me in the chest. It wasn't really like anything. It was like, and then it was that you're standing there like, what the fuck? And he's booking it away, running as fast as it can be. And it's in the most expensive part of town. And you're like, and it's that moment where you don't even know what to do because you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
This hobo came up, kicked me, and then just booked it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, then you get that point fucking old guy, I want to totally beat his ass down, you know what I mean? Fucking old man.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
You get all primal, what the fuck is his problem?
No, yeah, it kind of always happens after the fact, because in the heat of the moment, you're like, what the fuck? But then,
you just stand there what just happened?
And not even what the fuck, what the fuck was that for? Just what the fuck just happened? What? And then by the time you piece together, that asshole fucking kicked me.
Yeah, where is he? I'm gonna fucking beat his ass. Not like it matters, but just that primal instinct comes in.
I noticed that for a while, it's almost kind of I thought that, because, when you're in high school, there's that whole age, you gotta fucking prove yourself, you don't want to look like a pussy. And then you get older, that kind of fades away. So that whole, what, you want to fucking...
that Mulan song playing in your hands, be
a man. Be swift as a raging river, be a man. I got the It's kind of like the proto...
This is the dark side of the moon. Ryan, why are you singing out there in public? I'm trying to be a fucking man, like what I heard in that cartoon.
that movie that's all about feminism.
I know, and they're talking about being a man.
But what was I gonna say? Feminism in Ancient China. That is a good movie. Of all the Disney,
it's one of the best Disney ones, I think.
Of all the Disney remakes coming out, that's probably one of the ones I'm looking most forward to. But one of the only ones I'm really looking forward to, in all honesty, of the live action remakes. But anyway, we won't get off on that. I was gonna say, you get that thing where when you're younger, you don't want to look like a pussy, so you're just like, whoa, you want to fucking go? You want to fucking go? But then when you get older, it just kind of, without even trying, it just kind of goes away because you're no longer in that environment that maybe makes you, or depending, I guess maybe it depends where you live or whatever, but you're mostly in that environment where you don't really have to worry about getting into a schoolyard fight or something in college or anything like that.
I think it's because everybody sort of calms down, so it's that animosity is not there nearly as bad as it once was.
But once in a while, something will happen that just kicks it. And you thought it was kind of gone, but then it kicks in oh, this is still here more than I thought it would be. There's one coffee shop I go to a lot, and once in a while there would be this older, clearly there's something kind of wrong with the guy. I don't know how much, but there would be this older guy. He'd be talking like, oh yeah, just be like jabbing away to like the girl the barista. Like, yeah, okay, that's nice. Kind of like, oh, he's nice, but he just I'm trying to do my job, kind of thing. And once in a while, I would walk
Mm-hmm.
in and I would like. The guy would kind of like stop, give me this look, me like size me up, just give me this dirty look, and just walk around me. And this would happen like every other time I went in there. And I was just, just like, oh, whatever. He's probably a little crazy or something. But I reached the point where I was almost trying to avoid him. Like, okay, he always walks this way, so I'm going to walk that way. And he would still kind of do that. He'd still kind of, put us in a position, make a way around to where we have to bump into each other. That's where he gives me this dirty look. And then one day I'm just like, what? And then he just like, yeah, it just kind of like, it was one of those things. It wasn't even like, you want to fucking go. It was just one of those things you just, after a
It
while,
fucking burst. The dam burst right there.
Yeah, and I've seen the guy there. He hasn't done that shit since, and it's not like one of those things. Like, I'm gonna beat his fucking ass. It's just after a while, I think you think that shit's kind of gone, but it's still always a little
Now,
there.
every single time you go in there, that guy's always got a hot coffee or a hot cup of coffee ready for you. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man.
Just like, yeah, just ready to toss it on me.
He's fucking like trying to fight other people that are like, all the way, Dunigan's coming through.
I just take a spot. Like I start like, just like scare, like trying to like intimidate other people that walk in.
No, now he's just like,
It wasn't even really he was trying to intimidate me. It was more of just like disapproval, like what the fuck are you like disapproving of, like Krusty Pete, It's just like
yeah, I don't know how that always happens, but there's just always somebody there that wants to threaten you in line.
he's wearing a pair of New Balance and he has a bicycle helmet. He must be rolling in the cash. Like what the fuck,
Like maybe it's a motorcycle helmet, but it's just a bicycle helmet.
I don't know, but it's like not, I don't think that as me just like, oh yeah, my like, trying to like, I don't really know what it is. Just yeah, it's probably just some crazy old guy, but
Well, there's been a lot of movies that sort of came out like in the last 2 weeks, I guess you can say. Did you happen to go out and see Ninja Turtles 2?
I saw Ninja Turtles 2. I saw The Lobster. I didn't see Warcraft, but
Well, Warcraft was surprisingly. I thought that one was really good. Well, I mean, it looked like in the trailer it looked cool. And this comes from somebody who literally never had any care whatsoever in the world to play World of Warcraft. Warcraft 1 and 2 when they were like real-time strategy games, and I guess there's 3 too. Like, I watch other people play them a little bit, but I can't even say I played them myself. But, I mean, the real-time strategy games that I was really into was anything that was Command and Conquer, especially Red Alert. I'm not saying anything, like, the Warcraft ones always did kind of have an interesting kind of look. Just kind of felt like, in a sense, really what Warcraft was, it was like, hey, here's a Lord of the Rings video game because we can't get the license for Lord of the Rings. That's really, when you break it down, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it's become its own thing over time, but like many other video games, that's sort of like what they do. It's like, you think Golden Axe, that's a Conan game, pretty much without having Conan in the title. Grand Theft Auto, it's pretty much a Godfather / Scarface / any other mobster movie game without having that in the title. Later on, it starts becoming its own thing, but at first, that's pretty much what they are. So, going into Warcraft, it's like, really don't know anything about it, but since you kind of have, if you have the knowledge of like just fantasy stuff in general, I feel like you can get by. It's like, okay, there's orcs, and there's goblins, and there's elves, and there's man, and there's, fucking dwarves and shit. So,
giant tigers.
Yeah, so there's, there's all this kind of stuff. It's like you already kind of have like a general knowledge of it because it's all coming from either Celtic or Norse or something like that. And I will say though, that movie, it was just like, it was perfectly length. Like the action was really balanced in it. What I liked about it too, I think this was kind of the coolest part. There wasn't really a specific main character in it. It was almost like it kind of fucked around like who you kind of thought was, and then when you thought one character was sort of a main character, it would swap to another one, which made it kind of interesting because there's probably about like a total of 3 or 4 main characters in it, but they could almost each one be the main character of the whole entire movie. So that was kind of an interesting way to tell a story. And then the other thing I thought that really stood out to me is when people were doing magic, it was almost like you saw like almost like the chi of it circling around him and all this energy, and it was like vibrant colors. Like it was either going to be green or blue, and it had almost that lightsaber feel, like where you really make those lightsabers stand out in Star Wars. Vibrant colors. This is sort of magic was, and it almost came across like you could really see it all around them, and you could see it like fly out and everything like that. Because I started thinking about Lord of the Rings. I'm like, Lord of the Rings, when you really break it down, there's very little magic in that movie. And when it is, it seems like it takes a lot of effort for somebody to do. And it mostly doesn't actually show, like, there's not like an aura around like Gandalf or anything like that. It's kind of like a little bit more simple. With this one, they made it. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. It looked really. It was like probably like the coolest thing. And I'm trying to think of other movies that have magic in it. And I'm like, I've never really. There's probably something that's done it before, but I've never really seen it where it's that big and vibrant. I thought that was kind of cool.
I wanted to see the movie. I just wasn't able to see it over the last couple of days. Just been busy a couple of days, but I heard a lot of reviews on it, and I'm not trying to say you're fucking wrong. Not a lot of reviews. I heard a few reviews, and apparently there's some people making it out to be like, this movie's fucking horrible. But then I saw a review that was kind of somewhere more in the middle, like a show I like to check out on YouTube. It's called Double Toasted. It's kind of what's left over of Spill. And they kind of went into it with this whole thing of like, look, all the stuff with the orcs is awesome. That's the best stuff of the movie. If it was a movie strictly about orcs, this would be like a perfect movie just about. But they said the human stuff seemed a little kind of flat. And that, like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this is just what I heard. And they said that, like, what was it? Like, they said this is kind of a strength and it's kind of a weakness at the same time. Like, they said they gave it a lot of credit because it wasn't trying to go for anybody other than fans of the game. Like, it was really just reaching for the fans. That's all it was really reaching for. So, like, so in some aspect, like, yeah, so they did a good job on that. But I guess, that's going to probably, to someone like one of the people in the interviews, like, yeah, someone like me, I didn't really know what was going on in that aspect, but overall it was still enjoyable. It wasn't nearly as it was like I liked it. It just wasn't nearly as bad.
Well, I'll say this:
saying it was,
just including the classicness of Lord of the Rings, it's just as good as any Lord of the Rings movie. I kid you not. I think it's that good.
Really?
It's one of those ones. I think Lord of the Rings, like, it will seem. It's almost like comparing another like sci-fi movie to like Star Wars. No matter what, Star Wars is always going to seem a little bit better, and I think it's just the classicness of it, and that's sort of like what Lord of the Rings has. Mm-hmm. But I just, I compare it to like one of the Hobbit ones that came out recently. I would say it's totally on par with it, and probably it gets better with each watching because then you kind of get to know the characters a little bit more. That'd probably be the only thing that might throw people off a bit, is because if you don't really know this world, maybe it doesn't stand out as much. Because I heard a couple fucking nerds in the background like talking about it, like they're like, this character and that character and stuff like that at the end of the movie. So clearly it agreed with them.
Do they have a post-credit scene?
Huh?
Do they have a post-credit scene?
Post-credit scenes and stuff in it too, and it's totally ends on like a fucking sequel. And I don't even want to explain the end because the ending kind of like throws you like almost like a curveball in a sense. But no, I'd say everything in it's good. I think fucking those other guys are just a bunch of little picky bastards, because I'm not going to say it's maybe like a 4 out of 4 movie, but it's definitely like a high 3, maybe even 3.5 if you really like fantasy. And this is coming from somebody whose fantasy is not even their favorite genre. I appreciate fantasy. I enjoy it. I like sci-fi way more, but if I really liked it, anybody who's going to like fantasy should like love the hell out of it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't see the movie, and I'm just saying what I've heard about it, and like those, I'll probably still end up seeing it eventually. Yeah, like one of them it was like 3 guys. One of them really liked it. One of them was kind of like, you know what, really. All right. What? You got a problem with me finish off my fucking drink? I don't want to get all hot and shit.
Just drink it. Just move the straw. Just drink it down like that.
I turned my head as far as possible. There's a bunch of good MCT oil in there that I need to get out and all that stuff.
Oh, you can't leave that out, the MTC oil.
But no, MTC I kid you not. Go see Warcraft. I think it's really badass. I would say at the lowest level, it's a 3 out of 4 movie.
I wouldn't mind checking it out. Yeah, like
I will say it's even higher if you like fans. If you're fucking into Lord of the Rings and you like are butt fucking Hobbit, you'll probably love the hell out of it.
Fucking Hobbit. No, well, like I said, like out of the 3 guys, one of them really liked it. The other 2, like, it wasn't bad. Like that's, I guess it depends on, but yeah, I wouldn't mind checking it out though. So
yeah, and I bet you anything, like it sets it up for a sequel, and I could see where the sequel could be even more dialed in.
Mm-hmm. Like I know that here's the thing about World of Warcraft. I never gave 2 shits to play the video game, but it just never looked fun to me. But the way Blizzard, whoever does their cinematic cutscenes, those well rendered out cinematic cutscenes, I kind of would like to see that team do a movie. It doesn't have to be Warcraft. It doesn't have to be Overwatch. Yeah. I just like to see those guys do an animated movie, because if a new World of Warcraft like expansion comes out or something, I'm not going to play the game, but I'm going to go on YouTube and definitely look out the trailers, because it makes it all look really interesting. Just it's a really cool. I love the character design. I love the look of everything. It's just too bad I don't give a fuck about the game.
Well, that's kind of how I feel. Like I like Blizzard's a company I give a lot of credit to. Though I'm one of the people I've never played any of their games. I've never really been able to get into it, but I got something cool going on. So they got something cool going on, just not working for me. But if you make it a movie form, I might be there. Because I think, with this movie, and I think it's going to do pretty well. Because this, to me, it's like, okay, if Ratchet and Clank was kind of like a speed bump in the road that should have been smoother, this one I feel like is a straightaway fucking, they're doing all things right, firing on all cylinders. But, next thing, they could do a StarCraft movie, because once again, that's a game that I never really played, but it has cool-looking stuff in it. You could do a Diablo one, which that's one of the few ones I've actually have played, just never been able to get into it the same way that other people have. But once again, there's cool elements all in these games, and like lore and stories and so on, so they could probably keep doing it. And even that Overwatch game, like, I wouldn't buy it because it's like an online game, but I will say I like the character design in there and all that stuff. It looks cool.
I've seen it's one of those things. Overwatch, if it wasn't like, if it had a single player campaign, I probably would get it, because, like I said, I looked at all the cutscenes and all the the trailers, like these 7-minute character trailers online, and like you said, the character design's awesome. I like the characters. I really like the cowboy guy, Soldier 76, Tracer. She's actually kind of a cool character, just from what I've seen in these videos. So I think that, I'm looking, I would probably buy the game if it wasn't just strictly online. Now I actually got internet access, so I wouldn't mind actually maybe checking it out eventually. My thing is, I just don't like paying $60 for a online multiplayer experience. I'd like to actually have a single player campaign mode or something.
I already know myself. It's just, I've never ever been sold on any game that was totally online and been like, oh man, I gotta fucking play it. Like the two games that I can think of that I ever played like a whole bunch online is Gears of War and Red Alert 2. Those are about the only ones that ever captivated me to play for quite some time. But everything else, it's like, it's fun for like a day or two or three, and then I'm kind of done. Like, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. It's kind of like, I got like that new Doom game like when it came out a couple weeks ago or something like that, and then like, I beat the campaign, and then I was like, I'm done. And everybody's like, dude, you gotta play online. It's like, yeah, maybe. I felt like I got my experience out of it. Like, I don't know. It's like they're, as I said, they're fun for like a couple days, and then it just goes away. I know for some people it stays on for years on years, and maybe it's just because it's kind of that thing where maybe if you are playing with all your buddies and everything like that, it's a different experience. But when you're just kind of playing by yourself, it's like, well, this is fun for a handful of hours, but yeah, well, what's the take home thing from it at the end of the day? I mean.
Mm-hmm. No, I get you. Like, I never got into Battlefront. I really wanted to get into Battlefront, but I couldn't,
Yeah, it's just all those ones. It's kind of like.
Plus, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm not good at first. I'm just not good at video games. So putting me in a big ass like arena with a bunch of other people who play the game a lot more, I just get my ass kicked. It's like reason it's like I don't play Call of Duty online. It's just like you walk around a corner, boom, sniper shot. What the fuck, Then go you respawn somewhere else, right in front of someone else. That guy mows you down like motherfucker,
The game you should play then is Titanfall. Like, out of all those games, like, because I got that game for like about $8, and I have to say this is like one of the best deals I got. It was like $8. I bought it a handful of months ago plus, but when I was playing, it was like $8 used. Fucking all the DLC was free when I put the disc in, so I was like, well, that's badass. And then I started playing that game, and it was like they did multiplayer the best out of any game I've ever played online. Now I haven't played Doom yet, and I hear that's pretty sweet too. But the thing that I thought was cool about it was the fact that they put not only human players, but there was also computer players in there, which gave you the illusion that you were doing much better than you really were, because you would get a couple like, oh, dude, I just got 10 kills. Now, granted, maybe 9 of those kills were computer players, but it still made you feel better inside, doing it. And then you got your giant robots to go fight in and stuff like that, and I just felt like it was really well balanced, played super fluid, and then there was none of that cheap kill crap that you get in some of those other ones like Call of Duty and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think Doom probably, like, because what made that game at least cool in the single-player realm is what I liked about it. It made me feel like I was playing a 1995 PC game all over again. Like, they just kind of, like, got rid of all the crap that came along in the last, like, 15 years in first-person shooters and just said, let's go back in time, like, when, the days of, like, fun was still around. Well, no, the other ones are fun, too. That's like a negative term. Let's go back before, like, life sucked. But, no, it's just, like, you go back, it's like, it's like the game moves fast. You don't have to reload. Just the way that it plays is like it doesn't cut any like story stuff in there. You literally get like a sentence of story at a time, and then the game keeps progressing on. There's no fucking cutscenes to like weigh you down too much. It's just overall, it just reminded me of like popping in Duke Nukem and just being like fucking dropped down in a spaceship. And you're like, what the fuck's going on? There's pigs and explosions and shit going on. And that's how this game kind of felt. And I was like, well, this is cool. And then at the same time, it added a bunch of things in there that felt brand new and fresh. So you felt like you got something old and something totally new all at the same time. But I don't know. Warcraft, though.
I'll have to check out Doom at some point.
I've been recommending that to anybody who goes like, man, I don't have enough time to play video games. I'm like, I don't either, but for some reason that game, like, I just played it like at an hour at a time, and every 3 days added another hour to it. And
I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those few kids that like never played Doom. It's like, I saw people play it, but it was one of those games where just like, that game is violence, My parents wouldn't want me playing that. And that kind of went away around like when I was like 15 or 16. By the time the game seemed kind of outdated to me, but I'm sure if I played it'd still be fun.
Strange enough, those old Doom games, they still hold up just as well as they... I mean, maybe if you didn't play it back in the day and you jumped into it now, it might have a different experience, but to me, I always just feel Doom, Wolfenstein, Catacombs, Duke Nukem, they all hold up pretty darn well.
My first M-rated like game that really hooked me, and I was almost kind of looking like double taking both ways, like I'm not going to get in trouble for this, was like, I think I was like 14 or something, 14, maybe 15, and I played Metal Gear Solid 2. I think that was the first M-rated game that I really just got really into. And then like I was just like, and it was just one of those things, just kind of like, I just don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not even going to try, And then later, I don't know why I thought like a Mickey Mouse when I was 15, but yeah. So I was a pussy. I'm not going to lie. I was a fucking pussy back then. So
just put it on the table. I think the first mature game I owned was Resident Evil 2. I mean, technically you could say like, okay, the first mature games I really played was probably like Lethal Enforcers and Mortal Kombat and Doom and I guess Wolfenstein. Like, 'cause those games all technically became mature rated in due time. They were MA-17 back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why that's...
Remember when it was MA-13? Remember that?
Well, there's MA-13, too, which, I think the downfall of that rating is that confused parents, making it think that was the same thing as MA-17. Because you'd get a game that's like, oh, I don't know, that's MA-13 there. And it's like, fuck, it's MA-13, not 17, big difference. And I think that's why they changed it. Because they're just like, it was too similar.
I remember back when they had, they had the movie rating system things. Like, okay, G-rated movies show a bunch of like, a whole family of like these anthropomorphic animals. Like, oh, a G-rated movie, woo! Then you move down the scale, PG. There's like maybe one kid not there. Then you get PG-13. You see like a 13-year-old anthropomorphic animal, then his parents, and then you saw like rated R, just the parents, and then it got down to NC-17, and just a shady-ass rabbit in a trench coat with sunglasses
on
and a fedora. Yeah. Then there was like, is he going to see Orgasmo, or is he going to the glory hole in the back of the fucking restaurant?
Exactly. Like, what is that rabbit into? It's like, well, because that's the thing is they had a bunch of animals. I think on G there was like a giraffe, and then there was like an elephant or something on PG. It was almost they went and the rabbit just became this super shady one. I've always wanted to buy that poster, and I can't find it whatsoever online because I think that.
Go ahead, sorry, cut you off.
I know you could. There's one in like Brendan movie theater still in Modesto that I always wanted to kind of go in there and be like, how much you want for this?
I don't know if it's. I know they changed it, but for a little while, I want to say it was maybe it was in Toys R Us, or maybe it was. I think it was actually both Toys R Us and some video game magazines. The video game section, they also had something similar for video game players. So just seeing some little kids playing a game. E10, a little bit of an older kid playing. Teen, probably a 14-year-old girl playing a DS. Then M, it was the shady looking like kid, like
some
guy,
fat guy, like.
No, it wasn't that. He was like
they just feel like this is what happens when you become an adult and keep playing video games.
It was more of like
it's like in his mother's like basement.
No, he looked more of like if like Stanley Whiplash's son was raised by a Hot Topic employee. It was like he was all skinny and slender.
And he had, like, boy, you play those games again? You should be out grabbing women and tying the train tracks. God damn it!
But I just want to play games, Dad.
No son of mine will be a faggot. Starts smacking him.
You're a disgrace to the Whiplash name.
What's with that goatee? grow a fucking mustache. I can't, Dad. It's because you got too much of your mom in you, you fucking pussy.
So glad I tied her down to the railroad. You said she left! She did. My heart. She left my heart. Now she's fucking dead.
Same with that Dudley Do Right as well.
Paul Thomas Anderson presents Stanley Whiplash story.
It's not even called Dudley Do Right. It's called the Stanley Whiplash story.
No, but like there's a guy that basically
his name is Snidely.
Snively. Yeah, that's what it was. Snively Whiplash. There was like a picture. He was a very slender guy dressed in all black. Had that this really dates it. Had one of those like things where it's like he's wearing a t-shirt, a short sleeve t-shirt underneath a long sleeve t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
And the long sleeve t-shirt had like stripes, kind of like a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of thing. He had like a lip ring, kind of like a faint 5 o'clock shadow coming in, and he was hunched over with an Xbox controller, looking all like mischievous and shit. You know, I think like, what are you fucking saying about people like to play M-rated games? They eventually just change it to a normal guy, just like, hey, just like standing upright, looks like he has a job at Staples. You know,
I think for a while there, I think the people that were making it were people that like were anti-video games. So they wanted to kind of like put this image in there so kids go, I don't know if I want to be that guy when I grow up.
They put in like you said, like some 300-pound guy who just has this vacant look, just staring off into space, has like a bag of Cheetos sticking out of his pocket.
Yeah, I know. Just like a 84-ounce big gulp right next to him.
I'll say this. I know they exist, but I am fucking tired of the Cheetos Mountain Dew gamer stereotype. Just like, you know, like you'll read like an article and like talk about like video game culture. Like, now if you just for a second like drop the Cheetos and like take the Mountain Dew out of your mouth, just like, oh, that's literally I read that so much. It's just like, how many people, I mean, all right, I know
a lot of them do that though. That's the downfall though, is you catch those guys all the time. I like how you catch them like it's a fucking like wild animal. It's like, there's one of them right now. He's just got like a bag of Cheetos and a case of Mountain Dew in his hand. It's like he's fucking trying to run off, just like waddling away.
He can't make it to the car in time. I'll be honest, I haven't seen that in so long. Maybe it's just me. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Once in like a while, like once every 2 months, be like, you know what? It's kind of a low point. I'm gonna grab Mountain Dew. Once like in 2 months, that might happen.
And then most of the time you finish it, you kind of go, that probably was a bad idea.
I just
you're on like the ground, just like laying there, like, why, God, why?
I'm just kind of like, I had dreams once, you know, just staring at.
Tell me now.
So it's one of those things that, you know, I mean, I know they probably exist to some extent, but I just don't think they're as forefront as everybody imagines, like gamers being, and like even the term gamer is almost becoming now a slur, it seems.
Well, I think because there's generally, there's multiple types of gamers, but when you break it down, there's one or two types. There's the negative stereotype and the positive stereotype of a gamer. The negative one is the Cheeto munching, Mountain Dew drinking, you know, lazy as fuck, doesn't do anything else, stinks, has a dirty fucking house, just sits around and plays video games all day and does not think about doing anything else. I consider that like the negative stereotype, and sadly enough, there's a lot of that out there.
I know it's there, I just haven't seen it in a while.
The stereotype is the guy who plays video games but is still in total control of his life, is actually going somewhere, you know what I mean, and utilizes video games as like either a stepping stone to one, creating video games, or going into some other career field that's, you know, storytelling or something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, because you do see some of those people that like, they almost are like, they just become, it's like that's all they do is they just play video games. Maybe they work some shop just to pay for their like video game habit. It's almost like, it's equivalent to drugs. Like you do see like, when you get older, you do see what like some people are talking about. It's like, okay, I do see the bad out there in this world where like people like that's all they live for. And I'm not saying that like, I mean, if as long as you're happy, that's important. But Jesus Christ, man, no, you don't have to look so bad either. And it's mostly the downfall too. Is like they're mostly always the ones that are always smoking pot. That's just like those Republicans. It's the ones that are smoking pot and just sitting around playing video games and drinking beer. And I think that's like almost like the difference is you get those ones where it's like, yeah, I just like to get fucked up and play video games. That's all I do. And you're like,
those are usually guys who just play a lot of Call of Duty. I mean, I'm throwing in like stereotypes within a stereotype. But yeah.
Well, and nowadays they can go through even. I mean, they can even go to people that play Fallout and things like that. Just sadly enough, it can branch off to a lot of things. But I think it's one of those ones, like one of the worst combinations that ever came around was weed and video games. Those two should never go together because I think it instantly kind of creates a person who's going to be naturally more lazy and give up more on life. I feel like I'm like hate speeching like here towards this, like this in California this year. Do you want to vote on weed being like legalized? Well, of course we do for the fucking tax revenue, but you don't want to sit down and smoke a bunch of weed and play video games every night. That's just not a good turnout.
You know, I think most people. I mean, I can't. I think I'll say. I think most people could probably handle it. I think there are those like anything. Like if it wasn't that, it would be something else. I just think some people need to have an outlet, and they just can't really bounce shit out right with it. So, and I think that if it wasn't like pot and video games, it'd probably be something else. So, I just think that happens to be one of our generation, really, that people really notice about.
I think it's because it goes hand in hand, and I feel like, you know, Kevin Smith used to say it like best, but then I think he's almost turned back on his own words over time. So this makes me kind of still like contemplate it. Because I remember when he first started smoking weed, he was like, the whole thing was like, I can only do it if I'm going to do something creative. So if I'm going to write, I can smoke. And what it does is it takes away that guy, that negative Nancy guy who's going to tell you like, you can't fucking do this. What are you even trying? He's like, it takes away that roadblock and just lets you go straight ahead. By that standard, I think that's totally fine. But by this point, now he's just blazing it all day long. I mean, he's still getting a lot of things done, granted. But now, yeah, just everything involves that. So that works for him, technically. But I think a lot of other people interpret that and then don't do anything. They take that, and then it kind of... The downfall that I notice is when you want people that smoke weed is it takes away a lot of people's drive to do things.
Mm-hmm.
They once were going to achieve all these things, but now they're content. It almost makes them go like, I don't have to have the greatest job or do that much stuff because, you know, I got my weed. I'm doing fine. And I think that's kind of a downfall. It's like it takes away that drive to stay hungry. I want to achieve more.
I think that'd already be there for that person. I really don't
Probably, but I'll say this. I don't think it helps. That's what I'm saying. I think because I've seen a lot of people that maybe like pre-weed might have had more drive and energy, and post-weed, it takes it away. And even a lot of people I know that like stopped doing it, they noticed that. They're like, that was the one thing. They're like, when I did it, like here's a perfect example. I think of like Josh Bullock. You know, back in the day when he used to smoke weed and everything, he's like, yeah, it did. It literally makes you not want to do anything else. That's all you care about is just seeking that out. Now I just sound like I'm totally like on the wrong side of this, hate speeching it. But, you know, he said that's what he says. He's like, it took away the drive to want to like create things, takes away the drive to want to achieve things. You just get stuck with wherever you're at. That's all you kind of care about more than anything else. And I don't mean like in a way it's like, that's all he's going to do. He's going to be running through town like, oh, I need my weed with a gun in hand, like stopping at nothing. No, not like that kind of bad druggy, but just to the point where you get content with wherever you are in life. It's like, this isn't bad. Yeah, could be better, but not bad. And I think that's kind of the devil. It takes away that hunger to get more, to achieve more. And I don't mean that like in some way that you have to become this like, you know, like I need tons of money or anything like that, but just to like improve yourself and get farther ahead in life. Now, obviously, yes, some people can control it, but we all know that not everybody's good at controlling things.
I'll say this. I don't think that's really on the substance. I think it's more on the person. But I just now see like the comments section be like, fuck this show. I used to like these guys. And all the avatars are of like the Sun from Sublime, like Jay and Silent Bob, you know, like maybe Cheech and Chong avatar of some kind.
Well, I think it goes to that classic saying of like, you can control your high, then that's totally fine, but just don't let it like take away your drive. That's really the take home message of all this stuff. And the only reason I say that is just because I watch other people that kind of fall prey to that subject, and you just always wonder, what would they have achieved without it?
Well, I noticed that. I think it also just, like I said, it probably just depends on the person. Like, pot doesn't do anything for me. Whenever I smoke pot, I really don't feel any different. I don't really. People say, you just haven't smoked the dankest shit. It's like, I don't know. I've tried it I've tried it more than multiple times. I've I could at least count on two hands the amount of times I smoke pot. Probably more than that. But I know that's not a lot for other people. But whenever I do try it, I've definitely tried it more over the last 2 or 3 years. It just doesn't do anything for me, and I'm at that point where just like I just feel nothing when I do it. So I just get slightly hungry. There's only one time, and for like 4 or 5 seconds, I was like, whoa, only 4 or 5 seconds. I was one time, it was my friend TJ, TJ invited me over to to a group of our friends. They're starting a D&D campaign. I never played
Boy,
Dungeons and
that
Dragons.
sounds like
Shut
such
the
a
fuck
fucking
up. Let me
sad
finish.
thing.
Shut the fuck
We
up.
went over to play Dungeons and Dragons and get high and start butt fucking each other. Wait, I sound like a Republican guy. I'm like fucking Fox
He's so Republican as fuck, dude.
We're gonna
These are all
We're
guys
gonna
on
get
top of
together with your
shit.
D&D and fucking, which you know what that stands for? It stands for dicks and dicks because there's no fucking chicks.
There actually was a chick.
But
there.
you had the biggest dick of all.
All right. Well, just to clarify, these are not your standard typical like let's get some Mountain Dew and wear like Viking hats and like slap our dicks together while between
with ladies' underwear on.
No, it's like they're all guys that are fucking on top of their shit. One guy like one of them is becoming a firefighter. He has his own podcast on the side. Is in a band. Someone else, another one is kind of like basically leading a whole other company, like a bike rental company. Just about the other TJ, he's getting married. He just moved to Tahoe. So it's like these. They're all guys on top of their shit. It's not like some like let's get fucked up. And just...
they're not the guys with the fucking Cheeto bags. This is like
no,
this is
they're
what
not.
I have in life. Cheetos. Why did you lead me on such a dark path?
None of them are those guys. All right, I'm just trying to give you an idea. None of them are those guys. They invited me to play D&D because I never played it before. So all right, let's just see what this is about. And I was trying to be more sociable, so I went. And when my job was, I guess, do you have someone each game? I kind of rolled a number and like, all right, so it's your job to keep track of the points or something. It's like, so we rolled. So I rolled at some point like, okay, so the number for this HP count or whatever is 4-3-2-1, like 4-5-6 or I don't know, just some fucking number. And I was writing it down just like for like a total of 5 seconds. I forgot what 4 looked like. That was like as high as I got. I was just like 4. I'm like 4. Like then it was back to normal. That was probably the strongest pot I ever had. Just one hit of that. I was like, what the fuck? 4. Okay, I'm back to normal. Okay.
Why is 4 written so differently?
Yeah, it looks a lot like a 9.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's as high.
I was
as
just thinking, like, I don't know why it made me laugh. They're like, okay, we all have a job. You roll a number. Okay, Ryan, you have to go down to the store and pick us up all our stuff. And then while you're at it, could you wash our cars? All this stuff's like, well, that sounds like a fun job. It's like, yeah, well, somebody has to do it.
Like they're outside. I just hear I just look up at the window. I just hear laughing. Like, ha 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 ha. I'm just outside, like washing the car.
One of them standing up with no shirt on, a Viking hat, fucking dancing in the window, just looking at you.
Like all laughing, just like almost on a loop, just about. So the other thing is worst place to be washing a car on the side of the street. It's the fucking Tenderloin. So.
Well, speaking of other fun stuff, actually, Hanna-Barbera just keeps, or DC technically owning Hanna-Barbera, keeps coming out with fucking badass stuff. Like, did you see the Wacky Raceland thing? Where it's like Wacky Racers, but Mad Max style?
No, I haven't.
And I kid you not.
I knew of it.
It's like they're doing really smart things. It's just like the Scooby Doo Apocalypse. What they've done, instead of making it like a kid thing, they just go, no, let's just make this full-on adult. Let's make it for the fucking rabbit with the dark sunglasses on. That's our target audience now, because clearly we got fucking something that's 50 years old, like, material, and we're gonna like not be able to sell it to kids because they're not gonna know who it is. So let's just sell it to the people that actually do sort of know what we're talking about. And that Wacky Raceland one, I mean, it's full on. Like, if it wasn't Wacky Racers and you just kind of like picked it up for the first time, and was like, well, what the fuck is this? Like, it's just as brutal as anything Mad Max and whatnot like that, too. I mean, people are getting killed left and right. It's got swearing in it. People are drinking beer. I think just that for anything else, that's kind of normal. But when you think about, like, where it came from, it's like, well, that's fucking, like, Penelope Pit Stop's just sitting there with the fucking car drain, like, tuning up her car. It's about ready for, like, a death machine.
It's kind of weird.
There's giant fucking monsters and mutants and everything in it. Fucking Muttley's, like, the cybernetic, like, dog.
Huh, I'm kind of curious.
I kid you not. Go out and check that one out. It's fucking badass.
It's kind of like how, I didn't read it, but like Archie they started bringing like some darker shit into Archie, like zombies and H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu. Like, I didn't read it, but I just saw an article on it and I flipped through. Like, at some point Archie dies. They try to resurrect them, bring a bunch of zombies. At some point, like, Sabrina becomes the bride of Cthulhu and shit like that. Like, it's really just like, I think part of it's just kind of like, it's kind of ironic because it used to be so innocent and timely, but now it's all like, now it's just so fucking dark and fucked up and actually treating it seriously. Like, I heard people say, even though it seems kind of silly, it's surprisingly well written and pretty earnest about it. That's what I've heard in reviews. Is this thing kind of the same thing? Like, it is kind of funny in the aspect. Oh,
No, it's not really funny actually at all. That like what I like about it is they treat it super straight, super serious. It's only really kind of I guess funny if you just it's not really even funny, but when you just think about where it is. Because I'll say this, I watched Wacky Racers as a kid because back in those days you just watched whatever was on, and I fucking hated the show every single time because I always just went like it's what the fuck? It's like because they always have like some dumb way of how whoever won or anything like that, and I always just thought it was kind of like a retarded show. Not saying that like the characters and stuff in it were so bad, but just like I don't know. And I think it's just because like how the fuck do you make a show about like racing and then also have like I don't know. It's just like it's kind of weird to have like something. I guess it works with other sports, so I don't know what I'm saying there. But still, matter of fact, it was one of those kind of bad '70s like Hanna-Barbera stuff, you know,
well,
to the point where it's like was enjoyable. Where
is this the one? Is Wacky Racers the one where it was all just different members of the Hanna-Barbera universe all racing, or did it have? I know it had a handful of its own select characters.
it was like half and half.
But okay,
So this one doesn't have like any of like the other like it doesn't have any animal characters or anything like that other than Muttley. But so it just focuses on all just the regular ones and everything like that. But I mean like it's to the point where I mean like dude it's fucking ballsy at how like violent it gets. I mean there's one part where they talk about one of the characters. It's like in a little backstory in the end where him and his brother were out fucking like dicking around the woods and this bear comes up and fucking mauls the living daylights out of his brother, making him kind of like retarded. And then they start doing this thing because like you know how there's the announcer in Wacky Racers. Well, they make the announcer in this one almost like you remember in Twisted Metal how Calypso sort of was. How he would go like he would come up to people at like their darkest hour and say, "Well, you can come to my show, and here, you know, I will give you a chance to kind of achieve glory and go to a utopia and all this stuff." And then in Twisted Metal, he would always fuck them over at the end. Like they'd get what they want, but there'd be almost like this horrible price to come along with it. They kind of make it like that in this one. So they come up to everybody like during their like darkest hours. So this brother who was fucking mauled by like a bear, he's like, "Well, I can bring him back to life for you and everything like that if you compete in my races." And they're like these death races and so on. And then same thing, they show like Penelope Pitstop's origin and like her whole town was flooded and everything like that. And her sister was killed and like her family and whatnot. But in the wreckage, he pulls her out of it and says, "Hey, you know, I can rebuild your car. I can, you know, do this and that. But you got to compete in my races. If you don't, you could just go back and drown to death."
Is it kind of like, does it treat it in the aspect of like this is its own universe, or does it treat like, oh yeah, one time it was all happy and it was all fun?
No, it's totally its own thing. It's like it's totally like a reboot. But like I just think that's a smart way to take a property that you know you probably cannot do at all in its original form. But then going like, well, fuck, Mad Max was popular. Let's just take that, and they go even more farther than like regular Mad Max. I mean, it's just like this very extreme post-apocalyptic world. I mean, even in like the first race or whatever they're racing, there's those fucking like tremor monsters that come out and everything, and fucking Penelope Pitstop like rides it to the fucking finish line and shit. Like,
is she the main character?
I think so. I think she pretty much is. I mean, in the show, that's how it sort of was too. And then I can't really remember some of the other characters other than Wesley or what's that his name? And fucking
Motley.
Yeah, Muttley.
And the guy that was basically trying to be like
he was like Snidely Whiplash. Like that guy's one of the other main characters.
And he had like a little like air balloon kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's got kind of like a sort of like a Rob Zombie look or something in this one. And he's there and he's got fucking a big ass like Batmobile looking death machine car. And then there's just, you know, a bunch of other people. I mean, like on the fucking cover, it's just I mean, you got Penelope Pitstop stand there with like a fucking
hold that up close to the camera.
See if you can see it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So, I mean, like, artwork is badass. The story's really cool. This, so far, out of all the Hanna-Barbera ones, I might even say this is the coolest one. I like the Future Quest one a lot. And also, the Scooby Doo one was cool, too, because that one, it's not nearly as dark as this, but they're still taking it serious. And, I mean, there's even fucking swearing and shit in there, which is just kind of weird.
Jim Lee did that one.
Who? Yeah, it's Jim Lee. He did, like, the George Lucas thing, where he's kind of like, I got an idea for this, here, you guys make it, though. Here's my one-page summary. You fill in the rest.
I'll do like a cover. I'm called.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, he did the cover too. And that one's kind of cool because it sort of explains how everything, like, Shaggy's this guy. He has just this job at, like, I can't remember what he does. If he's not like the janitor, but he got kind of like a low-end job at, like, this. Oh, he's the dog trainer at this kind of like facility. They're testing things on dogs and they're trying to make these super, you know, super smart, super intelligent, super powerful dogs and everything like that. And what Scooby Doo is, he's the first test subject, but they give him a failure. So Shaggy's like, well, fuck this. He's like, I like this dog. You know, I'm keeping him with me. You know, and that's why he kind of talks in like the ruh-roh and all those kind of things like that, because he's a failure. He's supposed to talk like a human. So Shaggy takes him on board, and that's where he gets him. And at the same place, that's where Velma works. She's like the lead scientist on there and everything like that. And then they got fucking Daphne and Fred. They're pretty much like how they always were. They're out, you know, shooting kind of like, in a sense, ghost hunter type shit, where Fred's the cameraman and Daphne's kind of like, you know, the person on camera, and they're just investigating horror things and all kinds of stuff like that. And then they all end up kind of running together towards the end of the issue.
Is Fred still rocking ascot?
No, he's a little bit he's dressed a little bit different there, but he still looks
broy. I imagine he looks kind of broy.
No, not really. Actually, he actually looks pretty much just like Fred, just in sort of a different costume. I still like the white shirt and everything like that. Can't remember if he has. What's he got on? Oh, no, he's got like a bandana on, I guess, in this one, so it looks a little bit different, almost like he's like a cowboy.
Oh, okay.
But he's just got a white shirt. He's got like he looks kind of about the same. Shaggy's just the one that looks kind of weird because he looks like he could have been like some extra member for fucking Temple of the Dog. Like he looks. It's kind of a weird way to give him. Like they really give him like maybe they're trying to give him like a hipstery look, but what he more looks like is he looks like a grunge rocker, like like trapped in 1993.
Well, it seems like 90s grunge rockers kind of come back some way through kind of hipster culture to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, because hipster sort of did kind of. I mean, I think they're ripping off more 70s stuff, but in a sense, that's technically where grunge rockers got their stuff from. Was like Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, that Scooby Doo Apocalypse one fucking badass too. So I think it's just smart to take these series that maybe you couldn't sell the same way that they've always tried to sell them, and just kind of go like, no, let's fucking, you know, man the fuck up out of these things and just be ballsy. Just try something new. Hell, if it doesn't work, that's okay. Because I do kind of wonder, because it's like the weird thing about like Hanna-Barbera stuff is like who is like really their target audience. See, I watched a copious amount of it, you know, even though it's like 50s, 60s, and 70s stuff, in the 80s even. But that's because like when Cartoon Network in the 90s, that's pretty much what they were showing, you know.
Same thing here. I feel like what they're doing with Hanna-Barbera properties is, I think that it's kind of like, you know, Hanna-Barbera I think came out at the time, like I think most of like, you know, because they're kind of originally made for our parents' generation. But
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they're totally like the baby boomers, like cartoon shows. But I feel like because you know that's still the generation that kind of passed off cartoons at a certain age, where we're probably the target audience for it because we're the '90s generation who watched all the reruns of all those shows. But I just always wonder how many fans are left.
Yeah, but I was saying like kind of like what you said, how I think because like you know maybe Generation X as well as millennials kind of like hold on to shit. Baby boomers, I think they're like, oh, well, I'm older now, so I don't watch cartoons. And like, oh, yeah, I remember the Flintstones. Oh, I remember the Jetsons. But I think that they just kind of dropped it and moved on. Where I think now, since they have a whole generation of kids that grew up watching Cartoon Network, and so we got nostalgia for it. And then rather than being something we kind of are a little nostalgia for, like, oh, yeah, that was nice, and drop it, they just kind of sort of brought it back around.
Mm-hmm.
I think they still have incarnations of, I don't know if they have incarnations of Flintstones or anything like that. I know they're still making new Scooby Doo cartoons. So I think what they're going to be trying to do with certain properties, at least, is kind of present. And we also had like, you know, early Adult Swim with like Space Ghost Coast to Coast and the Brack Show. So I think something they're probably going to try and do is probably like keep a constant two like versions of it. So they're going to have Hanna-Barbera shit that's kind of like revamped for kids, and then having like a version for the previous generation to enjoy it, you know. So for instance, like, okay, you know, they had like we grew up on Hanna-Barbera original stuff, but then we had like Space Ghost Coast to Coast and all that kind of stuff.
Real Adventures of Johnny Quest.
Yeah, and well, not even that. Just as we got older, like you know, whatchamacallit, like Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, Brack Show, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then so now, and I don't know how many other revamps they have of Hanna-Barbera stuff. I know they're still coming out with new Scooby Doo shit. So I could see them possibly doing something. Okay, so now we're going to do like a revamp of this. So that way we have a kid version. And then by the time those kids get older, we'll do another dark version of some kind. I could see it being something kind of like that.
Well, I think that's sort of what it is. I mean, and then you also have technically, there's the modern Hanna-Barbera stuff, which I know by now it's like 20 years old. But like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls and Johnny Bravo and all that stuff. So I think that what they're doing is they're taking these 60s and 70s ones and going like, we don't really know any of to do this. We clearly can't make it for the original audience because they're probably too old and don't care except for a few of them. But and even Generation X, we're not too sure about them nearly as much. maybe they might have liked it, but that might have been at a weird time where they were kind of anti that, and they were watching other things. But the people we could probably sell it most on is Generation Y, which is like us, the people that grew up fucking watching all that 90s stuff and then watching all the nostalgia of watching, you know, Johnny Quest and Space Ghost and Thundar the Barbarian and Scooby Doo and all those things. Because really, when you think about Scooby Doo, is the only one I feel like it's transcended multiple generations. You know, there's a Scooby Doo for each. You know, there's 60s Scooby Doo, there's 70s Scooby Doo, there's 80s, 90s, 2000s. There's always somebody has a Scooby Doo show.
A pup named Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Sucked.
I like a pup named Scooby Doo in the 90s.
I didn't like a pup named. It was too wacky.
Or was that an 80s show? Actually, no, I think it was 90s.
That was 90s. It was
like
90s
very
show.
early 90s though.
Well, plus it looked all weird, and then when they did a dance, when they have like a musical number, like they always had the musical numbers of Scooby Doo, but they do this weird like fucking like Charlie Brown-esque dance,
right.
where they had like I think it may have been Shaggy. I don't know if it was all of them. Like they have like this dumbfounded look, like this vacant, soulless look on their face, yet there's kind of a smile, arms to their sides, hands out. And like stiff as a fucking board, but then shuffling their feet in spot, kind of bobbing their head,
I
like going back and
forth. Yeah, they had that weird fucking like Charlie Brown dancing scenes. And maybe it's those. I'm not gonna say that show probably holds up well now because, you know, it's like I'll still watch different Scooby Doo things from time to time, and like, you know, I've even caught even some of the modern ones just to see what it's like, because it was just something that as a kid that was a really big show for me. All the different Scooby Doo stuff. My favorite section of Scooby Doo is always the 80s stuff. I think that's the best. They consider that like the dark ages of Scooby Doo where it's not that good. I kid you not, that's like when it's just Scooby and Shaggy and they're finding real fucking monsters, that to me was the best, because that's what kind of bothered me about the original Scooby Doo series. You were, as a kid, you're like, it's going to be a real one this time. It's going to be real. And there were always something in a fucking mask. And I think it was kind of like, man, that's a stupid aspect. We're watching a cartoon show here. In real life, that's one thing, but you know, it should be real monsters. Why is it not? So that's why I think it's cool when they finally decide, no, let's do real fucking monsters in this.
Well, there's the 80s one that was like, it was like the Scooby Doo and the 13th Ghost, where it was just almost kind of like, they just like, I mean, it was good, but it was almost, they were trying to trim it down to like the bare essentials. Okay, we need Shaggy, we need Scooby, people like Velma, fuck Fred, not Velma, it was Daphne. I always liked Velma more, but like we got Daphne, we got Shaggy and Scooby, then we got Scrappy Doo, and then we got Vincent Price as their Zordon telling them what to do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that I love Scooby Doo and the 13 Ghosts, and I think that show probably doesn't even have there's very few episodes of that. I don't even know if it has a season. I remember just it was so short, and you could, and no matter whenever you caught it on, it was 1 out of 6 episodes.
I want to say I think probably going back, if I'm researching my memories, I want to say probably my favorite Scooby Doo's is probably the early or the late 90s straight to video movies that were the first 2 or 3 where
on Zombie Island.
That's
literally
the
best Scooby Doo I think interpretation ever made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with the witch, the Zombie Island one. I don't think I ever saw the Alien one, but those two I remember actually being pretty good, and they were actually fairly. They're actually kind of they stayed true to the characters, yet it was kind of a modernization of it to a certain extent.
Well, that's what I like. What I liked about Scooby Doo and Zombie Island, because every single time you go back and watch that, holds up so well. And I think what made it nice is that was the first time they're okay, this was a kid's thing. Let's just go and treat it like I'm gonna say because it's almost like an adult show, still kid friendly enough, but let's go to the next level where this almost does feel like you're watching something pretty serious. They took it serious, and I think that was kind of smart about it.
Well, I remember the thing about the witch one was there's a guy I think they're in Massachusetts somewhere, and there's a guy that Velma was almost trying to hook up with, and he's like, oh yeah, they're trying to clear my great grandmother's name or whatever, and then there is a witch going around town. They realize, oh no, this is just some buddy. This is the traditional someone in the masks trying to scare people shit. Then the guy gets a hold of the book, says, actually, I lied. She was a witch, and she fucked some shit up, and she brought the ghost of the witch back. Didn't say those words because a kid, but you know what I mean. And then he gets pulled, almost in an Evil Dead way, almost gets pulled into the book. How Ash almost gets pulled into the Book of the Dead.
Well, I need to watch that one. I think I have it upstairs on VHS, but I haven't seen it. But they did some really sweet not live action, but straight to video, full on movies at that time period. And that's the thing. I think Scooby Doo is a grand concept that you can do a lot with. I know they kind of went back to some kiddier friendly stuff on the later 2000s, but still, all kinds of fun things. I like the Scooby Doo meets Kiss movie. I thought that was fun. I mean, you got to kind of be into both Kiss and Scooby Doo to really appreciate it, but to me, it was like two things I really like.
You told me about that.
But speaking of, yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, you can't go in there and go like, this got to be fucking super serious. It's like, no, it's just gonna be fun and kind of. It sort of reminds me of like the Scooby Doo meets somebody ones in the '70s, where it's like, oh, he meets Batman, or oh, he meets the Harlem Globetrotters.
He met the.
Or oh, he meets, and they're always like really old timey stuff too. It's like, oh, you know, he meets fucking Abbott Costello.
Or it'll be the one where
he meets Dick Van Dyke. It was almost like they were sort of. It's weird because when I think about that '70s one, I just think of like the audience for like it. So you got a 10-year-old kid. Like, what 10-year-old kid's gonna be like? Fucking Dick. Even at that point, Dick Van Dyke's still kind of old. I mean, I watched Dick Van Dyke once again. It came on TV on TV Land. So you just kind of watched all those shows.
Or it's like Scooby Doo met Sonny and Cher. Or there's the one like every kid's like, oh, Batman again. Every kid was excited for that. But then there's also the one where it's like Scooby Doo met, I don't remember her real name, but like the big lady from the Mamas and Papas.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about.
You couldn't get the rest of the Mamas and Papas there. You just got the one mama.
Yeah, what the fuck was her name?
She was big. I remember her episode. They got stuck in a bunch of taffy. I don't know how they got out of it, but like they got.
She probably ate her way out.
I was curious, maybe, which I'm just like, you gotta commit to your character. You're like
Mama Cass. That was what her name was.
What was it?
Mama Cass.
Mama Cass. Yeah. And they were just like, I will never eat my way out of taffy. Like, look at you. Yes, you would. Just fucking.
Just reminds me like one where she's like almost like okay, it's anime, but just David like it fucking just breaks down. But yo, I get it. I'm fucking fat, but like still being animated Scooby Doo for him. You invited me on this show what, to make fun of me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you should have seen. That's what we really do. Yeah, sure. We get all these big name celebrities in here to like be in our show, but what we do half the time we just berate them. We just made fun of Adam West the whole time. What, have him say dirty shit in the Batman voice. Wouldn't pay him unless he did it.
The Harlem
None of it made it the show.
Lose.
Remember the Harlem Globetrotters TV show where they all get superpowers? Like Curly would turn into a fucking basketball, and one dude would turn into a spring and all that shit.
I think that was almost like, because I think that was another Hanna-Barbera one. I think it was like, well, they were popular on the Scooby-Doo one. Let's give them their own show. Because that was in the 70s. That's where you get all the weird fucking Hanna-Barbera stuff. I think the almost like the shows that don't hold up nearly as well. You almost got to still get credit for having. I mean, there's like a Gilligan Island fucking like animated one. It's almost like they're like, hey, you know how we could save TV shows that we can't shoot anymore? We can make an animated form of them.
Wasn't there one like Gilligan Island, Gilligan in Space?
There might have been something like that because
I'm pretty sure there was like a Gilligan Islands cartoon like Gilligan in Space.
Because it was just like it was a way just to keep shows going, and I don't know how to explain it. But my favorite one's always like the Ching Chang Clan or whatever that one's fucking. Where it's just the big Asian family.
I don't really. It's one of those things. Like now it looks so offensive, but. At the time, looking at it...
It's like the exact opposite. I'm like, hey, dude, it's a whole show full of Asians. Like, what more could you want? Like, in a sense, like, we're being as diverse... One of them was actually... Oh, yeah. Only one character in it was actually voiced by an Asian guy. But still.
It's one of those things, like, it's kind of... You look at something like that, it's kind of hard to distinguish. Was it actually pretty revolutionary for the time, or was it still in some way holding things back? It's kind of hard to tell. Like, at least it was like surprising that they had a show all about Asian culture, back in the 70s.
There's a lot of those in the time period where they want to call nowadays, in hindsight, they're going to call it racist, but I still consider it actually progressive. It's just, it's that middle stepping ground, and that middle stepping ground is just kind of a hard one, you know what I mean? Because they haven't gone all the way yet. It's kind of like, you think of some of like the superheroes when they started creating them for all over the world and stuff like that, and it's almost like people nowadays go, oh, it's just a fucking stereotype. Well, at that time period, that was just like, oh no, that's pretty revolutionary. You create like in the X-Men they had a couple of like the Asian guys, which you never almost see them anymore because nowadays it's like you can't show those Asian guys that their like names are like Red Sun and things like that. So they very rarely do they ever come back in things. They're going to pick the characters that don't have sort of like maybe a slightly offensive name, something like that. But at the time period, that wasn't really offensive. That was like more like, oh, it's patriotic for wherever they were from, and that's sort of how they made these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always think of like also like you got fucking what's his name? God damn it,
Black Lightning.
Well, you got like that. Like I don't consider that racist whatsoever. Just because the word black is in the title doesn't mean it's racist. Mm. But I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of Hong Kong Phooey.
Oh yeah,
because that one right there is a very. in a sense, for the 70s, I consider that pretty. Once again, it's going farther ahead now. In hindsight, once again, you go, well, he's a fucking janitor and he's a black guy. And it's like, well, like some of the ones, but still, it's like, okay, you're bringing one, not only like, you got Scatman Crowther's fucking voicing him, having this black guy being the main character, and he's a dog, and he knows fucking martial arts because he's trained in Hong Kong and whatnot. So it was like a double whammy of like bringing all this stuff forward.
And it was trying to do kind of like the exploitation kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was a mix of like black exploitation with like martial arts exploitation from like Bruce Lee and all that stuff. So. Mm-hmm. I think the forward steps, just people like, and later on when you kind of look at it without thinking of the context or the time period it came out, then it might seem kind of like this weird, like, what the fuck is that? That seems kind of racist. Like, no, that was one step forward. It's just, they just need a couple more steps to get to a point where it's normal. But
like at the time, like now it might seem that way, but like if you couldn't make that show now, you'd have to update it some kind of way. But
you couldn't make a black guy be the janitor. Which is it's not race. It's just a fucking job.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just saying the combination of things. I wasn't even singling that one out, but just the combination of the shit in it,
Exactly.
But, yeah.
But I guess going on to something else that we both saw, because you saw Ninja Turtles too.
Yeah, I did.
And personally myself, I actually liked it a lot. Like I thought it took, because I enjoyed the one that came out just a couple of years ago. I know it's kind of like a modern remake, and that's when I went into it. Like I kind of went, this is not my Ninja Turtles. I'm not going to expect it to be like the '89 one. Or even like the 2000 show, or even say like the CG 2007 movie or 6 movie, whatever that was. It's not my generation. Even that 2006 one, when I went and saw that movie, I literally went, this once again is not my generation Ninja Turtles. This is going to be some kid in the 2000s version of it, so I'll just kind of expect that. And once I end up really liking that one, and going to what this last one came out, 2011 or 12?
No, the last one came out not long ago at all.
13 even.
Came out like 4, maybe 13. I was living here, so it had to be somewhere like 13 or 14.
Maybe,
so.
Yeah, but probably 14 would probably make sense. Maybe only 2 years ago or so.
14, 15 maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I know it wasn't last year. I know that for a fact, but I know it had to be at least 1 year prior. So, like, I enjoyed that one. Is it my, probably on the scale of all, I guess we have 6 Ninja Turtle movies by now. My least favorite probably still is number 3. Funny enough, when I was a kid, I thought that one was like the fucking best one. I'm like, they go fucking to Japan. There's all kinds of, like, as a kid, I think it blows your fuck. Like, they time travel. They fight samurais. Like, well, what more could you want? And then in hindsight, you're like, well, it's still kind of fun, but it's like kind of the hokey, like our budget really got cut for this movie.
You could tell like it was no longer Jim Henson doing the puppets because they're
like some off-brand company.
Yeah, well, because when they talk in that one, I just noticed like their mouths like moves like so fast, like hey guys, just like they flap so fast they don't really sync up that.
There's like puppetry is just like as someone talks, the mouth just starts flapping automatically.
And just like it's rapidly like unsettling fast, and like the way they I don't know what it is. I mean, look, those guys can do. They could do a far better job than me. So don't take it as me like, oh, this is what they needed to do. But there's just something about this puppetry compared to the Jim Henson one. Where they almost looked a little bit more like, this is going to sound like weird, but kind of, I guess, soulless. I don't know. There's something about like, I'm not going to say, I know those puppets, they look incredibly, incredibly real in the originals, but they look pretty good for what they were.
They're still pretty believable in the first 2 movies. Like, to me, like, I see that, I go, that's a Ninja Turtle walking around. Where number 3, you kind of, this is what
it looks like a suit.
Yeah, and it had like a made-for-TV feel. I don't know what it is. Like that's sort of how.
And then like plus the whole like there's something about it, like each one, even though this is still when the Turtles were very kind of like, yo, bro, cowabunga. Even though this is still that whole era, the third one even more so. They all seem kind of like the same character, just about. None of them really stood apart from one another. There'd be moments in 1 and 2 where they were all kind of like yahoo, but like moments in 1 and 2 where they did like, okay, Raphael's the badass, Michelangelo's the more wacky one, Leo's a little bit more serious. But when you get to the third one, they're all kind of acting exactly the same way.
Yeah, well, that's my one complaint to the original that's always kind of slightly bothered me in it. Everybody's good in that one. Raphael, Leonardo, Michelangelo. The downfall of Donatello, though, is they did not bring him in to be in Donatello until like this one. Because in that one, he's almost like he's like the other wacky guy like Michelangelo. Like he doesn't really do a whole lot of like kind of like techy, almost like nerdy things like he's supposed to. He literally is kind of like almost like a side shoot of like Michelangelo. And once again, they fixed that in the second one. But that always kind of bothered me there. Which fast forwarding to like these new ones, as I said, like that that last Turtles movie that came out, like, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's kind of a remake of the original and kind of, you know, follows kind of similar things there, and it's, you know, made for a modern age, but I still, it was fun. It was different, but I still enjoyed it, and things that impressed me more than I thought it was. I think that's probably why I liked it, because I was like, kind of looking, well, who knows, CG Turtles, that sounds kind of half-assed and everything like that. And then you watch, you're like, you know, had good action in it. It was fun. I thought that mostly all the characters were pretty good. But by the second one, you know, Out of the Shadows, I thought they had it really dialed in. As far as you can go. I mean, like, there's some people out there, you know, that could want their super serious turtles, and don't get me wrong, that'd be kind of cool. But what I liked about this one is that, like, okay, it continued what they had going on in the last one, but it also felt like it had more, like, of a throwback to the older Turtles stuff. I mean, when they were throwing out pop culture references, they weren't, like, throwing out something that happened in the last 5 years. They were throwing out some ones that were like, oh, that's fucking a 40-year-old, like, throwback, which is all what the Ninja Turtles did, because the whole concept was the fact that they watch TV all day, and they're watching all these old-fashioned programs. In a sense, they're watching fucking TV Land and Hanna-Barbera stuff, you know, from back in the day. That was kind of like where all their, like, pop culture references were. That's why they do, like, Casablanca references and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
and I thought this one, and I thought also the characters were a little bit more dialed in, too, where, you know, I mean, they had in the other one, but I felt Raphael had a little bit more of a Brooklyn accent because they kind of, like, minused it back a bit in the last one. I think they had sort of different actors. I think some of them were the same, but a couple of them were different. Like, they didn't have...
Johnny Knoxville was no longer Leonardo.
Yeah, he wasn't Leonardo anymore. They had somebody else, which the guy did totally fine for the guy that played him. And then I think just the fact that they were able to throw in all these other characters into it, like, you know, you're getting fucking Krang, you got not only Shredder there again, then you got Bebop and Rocksteady, and I liked how, fucking, who was it, Bebop? There was...
Samson? Samson was Rocksteady, I think.
Yeah, well, one of the guys was played by Sheamus.
Sheamus,
the WWE wrestler, and I was like, oh, that's fucking badass. Because I always get excited whenever you put a WWE wrestler in there. I feel like that. There you go. There's a smart decision. And I thought that was cool that he was in there. And then, yeah, even Baxter Stockman. Like, I thought if he was cool. And probably in the third one, they'll probably use him making the fucking Mouser things. Yeah. But overall, I thought it was good. You know, one thing I did notice, you know, if you didn't know your Turtles logic, that movie might be slightly confusing because they didn't really explain some things. So if you never watched the cartoon show or anything like that, like, they really didn't explain Krang. Like, he was just there.
Yeah.
And they didn't really explain. There was a couple other things I can't really remember them by now, but there was some stuff in there that, like, had no explanation. So if you didn't have if this was the first Turtles movie you walked into, you'd probably be confused.
Well, I'll be honest, it's been some time. Like, Ninja Turtles is my favorite thing when I was a little kid. And I had, like, most of the toys and all that. And I don't remember the cartoon that well. There's certain episodes and certain things I remember about it. But I remember loving it as a kid. I think I remember enough. But most of my nostalgia, I think, comes from the old movies by this point. And I think this movie, it's definitely trying to go more for the original 90s movies, and especially the original 90s cartoon. Like, I feel like it's trying to do everything it can, because like you said, it had Crane, it had Bebop and Rocksteady. They kind of listened to the fans, threw all those characters in there, and they're kind of getting ready to bring in Baxter Stockman as the Fly for the next one, probably. So, and like, let me put it this way. The first one, when I walked out of that, the first of the remake, it wasn't like I was so mad because I know it's a different generation. It's not like I was, oh, this movie fucking sucks. It was just more like, oh, you know, it was all right. It didn't really blow me away. It was just basically a remake, and I guess it was one of those things where, even though some of the action was pretty good, I was kind of hoping for it to kind of expand on certain things. And I'm not saying make it a dark and deep and heavy drama, nothing like that. But I mean, I guess I was almost kind of looking for it to do like something that wasn't the 90s version, because I seen them rehash. Like, here's a good example. Even though I think probably have most nostalgia for the second movie, like the second original like live action movie, I think my favorite is actually the CG movie, because that's one where it still felt like Turtles, but at the same time, I mean, there's some logic gaps here and there in the plot, I think, but I think that it was actually trying to add a little bit more emotion, a little bit more heart to it, and it felt a little bit more grand scale. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally agree. And I'll tell you this, I think that Ninja Turtles 4, I think that's my favorite CG cartoon ever made. I think it's that good. Better than any Pixar movie,
It's a good movie.
Better than anything else, DreamWorks or anything like that. They had that so dialed in, that movie, and the animation is so fucking good. Story's great. Jokes are good. Action's good. I think everything is, like, totally on par in that. And the thing, too, is, like, you don't have to have Shredder in it. That's why I think it was a smart idea.
And I think that something about that movie was like it was one of those things where, yeah, it still had kind of like some of the, it still felt like Ninja Turtles. They still had the whole Cowabunga thing going on, but there actually was a little bit of like real character development in the movie. And there's
And darker.
yeah, and like heavier tones and all that. And then you get to the remake, and there's sort of like one or two moments with that, but it felt a little bit by the numbers. And it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't My Turtles, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be My Turtles. Things are made for the next generation, not always you, and that's fine. I wasn't mad about it. I was just like, okay, whatever. It's not for me. This one felt like it was trying to be a lot more for me, and because it was trying to pull all this shit from the '90s cartoon that I watched. But at the same, I liked it more. It didn't really blow me away, though. I mean, I'll say I thought the action was cool. I thought it was cool they had Krang. I guess I don't want to sound like I'm being all like, oh, I wish they had more of this. I guess I kind of would have liked it to be, rather than being kind of like, remember this, remember that? I would have liked it if it was like, remember this, remember that? Now let's expand on some shit. Like, almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing. How, at a first glance, it looks like the weirdest, kookiest fucking thing. But then when you get down to it, the characters are way more way more dialed in than you'd think, and there actually is some pretty good heart and emotion and scenes in it. You know what I'm saying?
And there's darkness and sadness, and people even contemplating suicide and all kinds of stuff like that, and not getting treated equal. And there's just different layers into it, while it can still be funny.
And yeah, and this one, don't get me wrong, it was like basically what something I do like about this movie is it was kind of like, you know what? It's turtles, they're ninjas, they're fighting aliens. What the fuck do you want? And I get that. I get that. I totally get that. I understand that. And I think it worked for the movie because there is some just really cheesy, bad dialogue, but the movie's self-aware about it. It's not like it's trying to say, hey, look, we're primarily going off the 90s kids show. So yeah, that's what the dialogue's like. But look at the action. Isn't the action cool? And it's so frequent. It moves so fast. It doesn't really bother you, but I just thought it would have been cool to see it if, I kind of feel like I've seen that by now. So I would have liked to see maybe something kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy equivalent. I know this is me nitpicking, and don't take it as me just shitting on this movie because I thought it was an improvement over the last one.
I will say it's sort of in that same vein that maybe Transformers and G.I. Joe is. And they're all 80s cartoon shows. So you got Ninja Turtles, you got Transformers, and you got G.I. Joe. And I think lots of times they're kind of for like that 80s nostalgia, like just modernized. But maybe what they need to do, and this is what makes, I think, that 2000 show, which I remember being a kid going, that's not my fucking Ninja Turtles, and I didn't watch it originally, and then I came back to it later on going, oh no, the thing that makes that 2000s, the TMNT one, like that show right there is what I liked about it. Is, yeah, you still got to have a little bit of comedy and wackiness with Turtles, because that's kind of who they are. I know in the comic books it's completely different, but as far as who we've kind of grown and known to love, you got to have that, but then we can have some darker tones, we could have them fighting all kinds of different enemies, and so on. Because what always kind of bothered me about the 80s show is, in the first 4 seasons, like every fucking episode, they're pretty much fighting Shredder. Like 95% of the time. Shredder, Krang, Shredder, Krang. And it comes to a point where it's like, come on, throw some other guys in there. And, halfway through the seasons or so, they start finally getting to the point where they have all kinds of other different characters. But, yeah, it's the only kind of downfall. It's almost like, I always feel like you're better off watching that first season, because each one of the 5 episodes on it, or 6 episodes, whatever there's not very many. Those ones are all really dialed in, and that will give you all the nostalgia you want. But then season 2, 3, and 4, it's just more of the same from that point on. And then as it gets deeper into it, it finally gets better again. But I think that in this new Ninja Turtles movie, at least they finally were. They were still taking steps forward. Maybe it was one of those ones like it'd be nice if they took a couple more steps farther. But I'm still gonna say, hey, it's at least going forward. That's what matters. So maybe by Ninja Turtles 3 out of this series, they'll have it even more dialed in.
Like, I'm not expecting, like, keep in mind, when I say make it a little darker, make it a little more serious, I mean, it's...
I'm expecting, like, Raphael to be holding Leonardo, like, dead, like, why, God, why?
Or, like, Michelangelo, like, you see, like, a doctor's note, you got diabetes from eating too much pizza. You see him sitting, like, at the corner of the bed, like, it's all, like, dimly lit. You see what it's in. He has, like, a gun in his hand, like, he's just contemplating.
And next thing you know, it's like fucking like Donatello kicks down the door and he's fucking drinking another Mountain Dew. He's like, Mikey, you gotta stop this. I can't, man. I can't. This is who I am, bro.
He steps down. He falls over. We see he has an amputated leg from diabetes. So
Did he amputate himself? He's got like a nunchuck tied around it, holding it.
Yeah. This is what I mean. Hey, if you want to make that movie, I'd be fucking for it. Like, dude, did you see the fucking Darren Aronofsky like Ninja Turtles movie? I'd be down.
In fact, it never takes place anywhere except for down the store. It doesn't even leave there.
Like, I'm doing wrong. Like, I would love to see that too, but like, nominated for Best Picture is Ninja Turtles 3.
Like Shredder ends up, or not Shredder, but like Splinter. He ends up passing away just because of old age and so on.
They all just fall apart.
Yeah, and from that point on, everything starts going downhill. Mikey he's just drinking soda like it's going out of style, and instead of drinking beer, it's like he's just like the soda-holic guy. He
would.
They catch him like at the arcades, like at night, like fucking stumbling around. I don't know why he's stumbling. It's like he's just so intoxicated with Mountain Dew.
Well, I will say this. I'll get to.
He just starts getting all fat and stuff by just eating copious amounts of pizza and not working out anymore.
No one's gonna push this like 400-pound turtle out.
He tries to ride his skateboard, it just ends up breaking underneath him.
He almost does like tries to grind down like a rail, but as soon as he just gets it up on the thing, just snaps, hits his balls and stumbles down the stairway, but doesn't really do it in a funny way. Does it like in a sad way. Like it's kind of like a single shot from like down to the bottom of the stairs. He falls down, lands down. He just his face in front of the camera for a second, just holds on him.
He holds on for like a minute.
He just like quietly weeps and just like that like. And not at that like, but more that like, like that like exhale, just like slowly crying eyes.
Fades the black.
Yeah, and then like credits, no music, or just like slow, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Turtles in a half shell. Like that, just super slow. No piano, it's all a cappella.
Raphael ends up becoming like the Punisher turtle in this process. Like he's like, the only way we're gonna fucking take care of crime is if I go out there and I fucking stop it by stabbing it in its goddamn fucking heart.
Or like, but it's at the point where he can't like, he
can't control it. He's just got this bloodlust.
He can't control it, but it's one of those things. If somebody sees him, he has to kill them. Because Leo isn't there, Splinter's not there to control him, so he just like, they saw me, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this, and just starts like fucking knifing some like
Jones.
Like some
You're my best friend, but I can't let you see me like this.
Yeah. Then you get like this shot of him just like dragging like this black bag over the Brooklyn Bridge, just tossing it over. I'm sorry, Casey. Was it meant to be this way? You made me do this!
I will say Casey Jones, I literally think that's one of the coolest realistic superhero characters ever invented. And what I like about it,
and that's the character they fucked up in the movie.
Yeah, I will say they changed him around a little. And here's the thing: if I didn't like Stephen Amell from Arrow, I will say I probably would have looked at that guy and been like, "What the fuck? You're gonna call that Casey Jones?" I like Stephen Amell enough that I kind of like, okay, that's fine. But because what makes Casey Jones so cool is the fact that like, okay, people go like, oh yeah, well, what makes Batman cool is because he is just a regular guy out fighting crime. It's like, yeah, but he's also a fucking billionaire. So that kind of is his superpower. Where Casey Jones, it's like, no, this is literally a guy who fucking goes out in the streets of New York and fights crime, and he's an average guy. And what does he use as his weapons? He uses sporting good stuff. So he's using fucking hockey sticks, golf clubs, and then like they don't show it in this one, but in other ones, it's like he uses almost like a golf bag to carry it all around, and he's got a hockey mask on. Like it's all like totally realistic things that you could use to fight crime. And I know some people go like, yeah, well, he just get fucking shot in real life. I'm like, yeah, but it's not fucking real life. It's like the whole point is like it's a cool character fighting crime, and I think that character's so sweet. The downfall in this movie is like, one, they give him a job. Like I feel like Casey Jones is much better off as being kind of like you want him to be the average Joe. You know, you want to be relatable. He's a guy, like maybe he's a fucking like, almost dishwasher, or he's a delivery. He works just some regular job, but at night he fucking fights crime. You know why? Because he sees that he could do something better about it. And the whole point is he's supposed to be the guy that like, you could be this guy. You could be this guy. You could be this guy. And the other thing too, what he was missing is, I know they started kind of dialing back their accents in there because maybe they go like, people in New York don't fucking talk like this all the time anymore. So they got kind of like Casey Jones not having an accent anymore, and it's like, dude, he kind of needs his long hair. That's sort of part of his costume. I feel kind of, and the worst part too, it's like, fucking, look, Stephen Amell and Arrow's got long hair for half the fucking show. Like, why does he just grab that arrow wig and slap it on him?
I feel like one other thing about this is you see in the trailer, you see the part where he has the hockey mask and the hockey stick. That's literally one scene in the whole movie. Aside from that, he's a cop trying to like just prove what he saw, prove that he saw these turtles and that like Shredder got away when he was because he works as like a prison guard escorter, and he just
He's not even a cop. He's like prison cop.
he's driving the escort truck. And he was transporting Shredder, and Shredder got taken away by Krang and all that, and the Turtles try to intervene, which you get to see the Turtle van for the first time. Well, you saw it at the end of the other one, but this one, it's all souped up. Like, oh, wow, they finally got the Turtle van.
Well, I like it too. It's like a dump truck, too. It's like not even just like a van. It's like this like monstrosity of like a huge vehicle, which I think that's even more badass than a van.
Yeah, exactly. So, with the size of those turtles, they'd be all like in the van. They still be all scrunched up. Like, excuse me, come through. Yeah. They'd be all hunched down. Like, fuck. So you need a dump truck. So I think that worked. But the whole thing with like Casey Jones though is like even move aside the whole like the bit that he's supposed to be Casey Jones. He's still kind of like he's like I'm a prison guard like trying to reach detective, and you're like, oh well, Jones, you take a leave of absence because you fucked up. I'll be detective one day, you'll see. It's like, what the fuck is that? Oh, come on, I know we're all here just to watch turtles like fight monsters and shit, but they'll try a little better than I'll be detective one day, you'll see. I'll show you all.
Yeah. I know, it's one of those ones like, I mean, I know, I guess by being like a prison guard, that's somewhat of a regular job, but I expect him not like that's a job.
Who drives a GTO?
Yeah, well, yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, one, so clearly he's making a copious amount of money because generally prison guards do make that. But a prison guard is not like a normal job. It takes a lot of effort. I've seen those guys try to get those jobs before. They have to wait like an entire year just to get rejected. And I feel that Casey Jones would probably be one of those guys that gets rejected. Like, to me, he's got to be working like the most like lowest end job. I think that's what makes Casey Jones who he is, because he's a guy who maybe isn't the smartest guy, isn't the brightest guy, but he's got a fucking dream and he's got passion and enough skill to back it up.
He's like skinny Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of how I picture him. I literally think that out of any superhero ever created, that guy, as far as your average Joe fighting, that's such a cool character for that reason. It's literally, you can't be Superman, you can't even be Batman, you can't be a Ninja Turtle, but we could all be Casey Jones. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about that character.
Yeah, and so I thought that was kind of like, all right, these kind of, because they literally just put him in. There's like a scene where April's getting attacked. So what's he do? He just throws on a mask, goes to the back of his car, and like fights the hockey stick. That's just shit he happened to have on him at the time. So that's something they could show for the trailer. Look, here he is, and then rest of the movie he never puts that shit on again. He's just a cop trying to help out the Turtles and April.
I do feel it's like one of those ones like, I still think Stephen Amell, he'd be totally fine if you just like. And if you give him more of an accent, gave him his fucking long hair, and then made him just stay Casey Jones the whole time and not be, just get rid of the cop thing. He doesn't need to be that. The other thing that's kind of in that one too is, once again, if this is the first Ninja Turtles movie you ever watched, I like how April in this one, they never I don't think they say it once what her fucking job is. So for like, if anybody had no idea who she was, you'd be like, who the fuck is that character just running around and has all this free time to do this shit? Because she has never explained at all being a reporter in that film. I thought that was so weird.
That's a good point. I never thought of that, but I guess it's like, you know who these characters are. I make
well, that's what I mean. Like that movie totally treats it like, you know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Which I think that's a smart. I will say at the same time, I think that's smart instead of having to handhold people. But sometimes it's like one of those ones like, you don't have to like shoehorn in like a scene that feels awkward. But I mean, like, if that wouldn't be weird if she was like, her and Vern were still, doing some kind of reporting.
Yeah,
because even Vern too, it's like he's like, oh, I'm the man who saved the city. Look at me.
Yeah, because they somehow, even that, like, you think there'd still be some, like, how did you exactly take down the Shredder? How's this guy, you know what I mean? That's the one little thing.
Who's our wimpy cameraman that takes down the fucking Shredder? I guess maybe because nobody really knows him in real life, I guess that sort of is.
I know, but still, it's just one of those things, like, why don't you question some shit? I don't know. But granted, he works for the media, so maybe the media works something around that. Like, oh yeah, this is our guy, I'll say that like most of his stuff was kind of whatever. I like Will Arnett, but there is one scene with him that I thought worked pretty good. And they said, like, look, you're the only one thing getting into this, because since you're like basically New York's hero, because they think you stopped Shredder, because Turtles, they got to see in the shadows, they can't be part of it. You have to go in and you have to get this camera footage So you're the one that can do that. So go in and do it. And then what's he? It's he sees like an outlet, but he sees like an outlet box. Like, okay, it's gonna follow this cord out. So he starts pulling this cord out. It's going around the whole room, leads right back to the same starting point. Like, oh, okay. Like I thought that was actually pretty clever, right?
No, I thought that was pretty funny too. Well, I'll say because like Will Arnett does play a pretty good Vern, because the whole point about Vern, like I like how he is in the '80s show where he's kind of like he almost reminds me of like Jerry Seinfeld. If Jerry Seinfeld is very yuppie, he's like, "Oh, come on, April, we don't want to be here with the turtles."
Yeah. Vern was I kind of forgot for like, oh yeah, that's that guy when I was watching that movie. But I always liked Will Arnett, and I thought he did a good job. So it's just more of those things. Just it's not Will Arnett; it's just the character. I don't really care for the character that much, but I think it works for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, like overall, and I thought I thought they did a good job on Krang, even though he's kind of in there he's kind of in there just to be somebody to fight towards the end, and it's almost like you don't get a full story, but maybe that it'll probably come back in the third one.
Well, even the whole thing was just kind of like it was literally. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on it. The writing wasn't that great, but it wasn't really trying to be. It was just trying to say, hey, you came here to watch some turtles fight each other.
And have
that's
what
you
got. Have some laughs, see some action.
And that's what you got, because Crane is very much like, I am going to take over the world. This is my weapon, the Technodrone.
And even Shredder's kind of like, oh, okay, so we'll take over the world together. Yes, we will. Well, that sounds like a pretty good idea. And he just kind of goes,
you seem totally trustworthy. You're not a giant like robot, a brain sticking out of a robot that just transported me out of nowhere. So imagine that come back, because I know they got like turtles, but there's already some like, okay, so we're fighting turtles, but that's science, whatever. I come back and says, all right, guys, so this brain attached to a robot told me we're going to work for him and we're going to rule the world with him. How do you know he's not going to fuck you over? He seemed like a good guy, transported me out of prison, wants my help. So, which my thing is like, can't like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to look for too many logic. I'm not looking for too much logic in a Ninja Turtles movie, but couldn't Crane kind of get there himself? If he could transport Shredder there, he's just like, you got to go get these 3 artifacts to create a like a teleportation device so I can come through. It's like, if you were able to zap him there, couldn't you do it yourself? Maybe, never mind. I don't look too much.
Maybe it's one of the ones like, probably to get the Technodrome there needed more power. Like maybe Krang only had enough power to, to sort of like, to psychologically go into the other dimension and warp things around but he didn't have enough power to get him and his Technodrome there. I'm guessing that's sort of what it is.
Something like that, probably. Yeah. I mean, whatever. It's one of those things like, I could probably nitpick this thing all day and all long, but like when it gets down to it, you had Krang, you had Bebop and Rocksteady, something you wanted to see since the 90s. So
I mean, like you're getting a lot. I feel like you're getting a lot in one movie, almost making up for lost time. That's kind of how I feel how it is.
Yeah,
like, these guys should have been in like Terminator, Ninja Turtles 2 or 3, or even 4, and 4 I think is fine for like because they were still doing something way different than that one.
I think 4 is still probably the best of all the movies of the turtle films.
Yeah, probably as a movie-wise, I probably would agree with you there. 2's probably still my favorite just for nostalgia reasons.
Same thing here, yeah.
And plus, like the one thing that's always going to outweigh 2 is the fact that it's live action makes it much cooler. Because, you get to like even a movie like this, I'm almost looking at a lot of films nowadays. It's like, can you even call some of these movies like live action? Because really, the Ninja Turtles movie, I mean, yeah, okay, you got Casey Jones, and you got April O'Neil, and you got Vern, and you got a handful of live action characters in it. But when like literally half your movie is pretty much a cartoon, like what's like when does it go for the opposite where you have something like Jurassic Park, which is pretty much a live action movie, has a handful of animation in it, you know what I mean, handful of CG characters. So I would still say first and foremost a live action movie. But then you start getting into some of these movies, or even look at like the Jungle Book, like that movie, the live action one just came out. That's not really a live action movie. That is literally an animated movie that happens to have just one live action character in it. It's equivalent of like almost if you had Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it went the exact opposite way, where just Bob Hoskins was in Roger Rabbit's world the whole time, and he was the only person who was not animated. Would you consider that a cartoon or a live action movie?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how I look at it. Like Jungle Book. That's not really a live. Like when people say, "Oh, it's a live action," but it's not really live action. It's a computer animated. It's really it's a cartoon again. And even Ninja Turtles, by these ones, they're probably like half. It's probably half CG, half live action.
That entire scene, probably that whole river scene. I mean,
it's all CG. I bet you there's
they
probably
probably even
nothing.
they probably even go to Brazil and shoot any like stock footage of rivers or anything. It's probably all CG, which is fine,
No,
But
and it's kind of like the Warcraft movie. You look at that movie too. It's like it pretty much is like a big cartoon. I mean, I think once you breach the 50% mark, where you got over 50% of the movie is computer graphics, you pretty much are a cartoon. You're not a live action movie anymore.
mm-hmm. And there's like the whole part with what was I gonna say? The whole part at the end where they're fighting Krang, like that is all basically just that's all just a giant CG bit right there.
Yeah, you're watching a big cartoon. I mean, that's literally when you break it down, that's what it is.
So but don't get me wrong, it sounds like I'm really taking a shit on this movie. And let me put it this way: I did enjoy the movie. I just think I've kind of seen it before, and I guess in some aspect, I'm getting a little nostalgia out. But I'm still glad they had Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady. And I respect the fact they're trying to make it seem more 90s-ish. I just would have liked to see them do something kind of like what they did with the fourth movie, which was give it a little bit more heart, give it a more. And I think the best example, like I hope this, because I made this connection several times. I just would like to see something do Guardians of the Galaxy, where at first glance it seems so fucking ridiculous just looking at it, but then when it gets right down to it, there actually is a lot more going on in that movie.
I know. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example of like that. That should have been like raising the bar, but for some reason, not everybody jumped up to like reach that same pinnacle point too.
I'm surprised I haven't seen more things trying to pull from Guardians of the Galaxy. The closest thing I can think of, and maybe it's just because the way the trailer was edited, was Suicide Squad, just by taking retro music and fitting it very perfectly to the trailer.
That's probably true. That's probably about the closest thing, and that we haven't even seen the movie yet, so we can't even really tell if that's exactly the case. But trailer-wise, yeah, that does seem similar on that thing. But yeah, it is kind of weird too, because for as well as Guardians of the Galaxy did, and for how it's sort of like, you could almost take that concept and go, boy, they did this thing right. I always think like that, like they did Green Lantern right. Like Green Lantern just followed the exact same way that movie went. I was like, that's how it should be. Maybe a little bit less comedy for a Green Lantern one, but just the way that they're instantly in space and 5 minutes into the movie and you're ready to go. That's how it should be, and I think that's a smart thing. Where at the Ninja Turtles, I think what they just need to do is, and I know it's like they're totally realizing on the 80s cartoon show. That's sort of like what they're going for, probably mixed in with that Nickelodeon one. But I hear from a lot of people that watch the Nickelodeon one that show is really pretty well made and has some more serious stuff going on in it. But it still looks kind of, it's got kind of like the weird looking CG, and that's probably why I just never really watched it. And
like Donatello has a gap in it between his teeth.
Oh yeah, it's got some weird. It just got almost a little bit too weird for me. Not saying anything against it, but where.
It's probably good if you watched it, but I
think what Ninja Turtles just needs to do for probably once they're done with this series, is you probably have to sort of reboot it again. You could technically do it inside the movie and make it just a little bit more serious, but that's almost the next element they need to do is, in a sense, treat Ninja Turtles. If you at least treat it the same way you would treat like an Avengers movie, I think you'd be there. Ninja Turtles doesn't need to be treated like Batman vs Superman or anything. It probably doesn't need to go. I mean, I would fucking see that one. Like if it was like that seriously treated, that to me, because in a sense that'd be like what the comic book fan would want.
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
As long as they just don't all have the red bandana on. I always thought that was the dumbest thing about the comic book. It's like, how the hell do you tell who's who?
The distinguishing thing was the weapons, so they always would have.
Yeah, but if you don't see the weapons, then it's like, how the hell do you tell who's who?
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of the weird like things that is whenever the Ninja Turtles, whenever they take off their headbands, it was always just fucking like weird looking. I don't know what it is. It's just this uncanny look.
Well, even in the last movie, when they had the whole bit, like, no, it's just a mask. See, he takes it off like Michelangelo does.
It's almost like they're taking their pants off.
Even that still looks weird. I don't know what it is. When he takes the bandana off in the first movie, see, it's just a mask. Even that was like just unsettling looking. I don't know what it is. Like, no, you put that back on. You put that on.
I don't know what it is, but I think that's just what they do. If they took it like the level of seriousness of like an Avengers movie, where it's somewhat serious. It's not super serious, but it's still not too wacky and fun. I think that'd be probably the right tone. I mean, as I said, if they made Batman versus Superman serious, that'd be badass. Like, who would not want to see an Ninja Turtles movie like that? I know probably most people would complain like, "It's serious. Oh, I don't like it." It's like, well, you can still throw a couple jokes in there. I'm not saying take out the jokes, but just treat the tone that serious that like, Mike can still crack jokes, but then all of a sudden, fucking somebody dies right next to him.
Or like it'll be one of those things where it's just like, he just like cracks someone's neck. He just very sturdy looks at the camera. Cowabunga.
Cowabunga.
Yeah. Or just like, like they're just getting like, guys, get some fucking pizza. Yeah, pizza.
They're just like slamming their fist down on the table.
Like just like eyes wide, like fucking just like primal.
But no, I think like if you kept it dark but still if you kept it dark and kept the comedy. So realistically, you're making a dark comedy out of it. But maybe that's the way to go.
I mean, you can still have like bits of comedy. Well, I don't even think the original. I think the whole thing of the original. Like, I never really read the original comics, but I think the whole thing of it was like critiquing and kind of making fun of Frank Miller's run on various books. And I think it was almost like it was kind of like one of those things where it's very, very over the top and ridiculous, but it treated itself so seriously. I think that was part of the joke. You know what I mean? I think
so, because I think it's got
we're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and everything is serious. But it was like kind of like that was the whole idea of it. Because like how when you think about it, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disparage my favorite character, but it's kind of like I mean, we're used to hearing now, Batman, in a very serious tone. But really, you think about it, like a guy dresses like a bat, he's in his tights, and he's this serious now. I think by that point,
it's like some guy from Brooklyn, like a guy in his fucking tights, and he's taking serious. What are you, huh? I sell fucking hot dogs for a living. Get a real job.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. No, Batman's a favorite character, but I think if you just kind of look at it from like where it started, and then where it's at then, like. Okay, we see him in the not where he started, but like we saw him in the Adam West show. Now it's all dark and he's breaking people's bones and he's like having like deep internal monologues. Like, I'm glad that happened, but I think at a first glance it's just kind of like that seems a little over the top, and that's what Ninja Turtles was. It was kind of like critiquing how they're taking what seemed like, I guess, ridiculous characters at the time and then just very like taking it so seriously, but kind of a wink and nudge, like yeah, we know,
At some point, I've always, like, I don't know why I've never picked up those books. I've always wanted to pick up that original series of Ninja Turtles and just see what it's all about. I think what kind of confuses me is they have so many different versions of the book that you don't know like which one am I supposed to start with? Like, why is there so many different versions of like the Kevin Eastman and like or Kevin Eastman and Laird? What the fuck's the other guy's first name? Whatever, fucking. And it's just like I always look at that, but I go like, where do you start? Because it's like this is volume 1, this is volume 1, this is volume 1, and it's kind of almost confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they would rehash it or renumber it. I know at some point I picked up one. I didn't read it, but I saw some random like issue of Ninja Turtles, and it was, I guess, a continuation of the originals, and it looked so weird because it was just called Raphael, and it was just him in a trench coat, looking all serious, and he had like I was flipping through it. It looked like some real crazy indie comic type shit going on. So, I guess you got to change it. And then apparently at one point in time, I don't know who it was, but Leo or Raphael became Shredder. So,
like, because I don't know how long those guys wrote for too. Because I don't know if they sold their stuff off pretty much like right away, or if they did really continue writing. Because those are those kind of guys, like, you never hear them do anything else really too much. You hear their names all the time, but I think they just literally just sit on a pile of money all day long because they just get, I don't know, 10% of everything Ninja Turtles made or something like that.
I think it's one of those things where it's kind of funny when you think about it, because it started off as this really witty satirical like statement on comics, and then kind of became the very thing was sort of making fun of to a certain extent, or the thing more of those things those comics are pushing against. They're saying, isn't it kind of weird how comics take themselves so seriously now, and then they became the thing, like, it's so wacky and serious, not what serious, well, wacky and fun, and then like
it goes like the exact opposite almost.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things how it became very much what I meant to say the opposite when it was kind of the underground. It was kind of like the counterculture that became very much the the mainstream. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I know it's weird. One of these days, I just got to sit down and read through those and just. Because it's probably not that, because you think about it, you probably could read all their stuff in, like, a couple books. Because I do think it's like, how long did those guys write it for? I mean, did they sell it off kind of instantly, like in 87 or whatever? Because I think that first book's like either 84 or 85. And then the Turtle show comes out in 87, which means that they're pretty much working on it probably in 86, if not earlier. So, I mean, it's like, it was almost instantaneously turned into, like, a pop culture phenomenon in, like, 2-3 year time period, which is kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, it is. It's I think it was just that cartoon. Some about that cartoon just hooked kids, you know? Maybe just the colors, the music, or what. They even had like
Characters.
of all the different theme songs they could have used, they went with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the credits of this movie, which I don't think that theme song is in any of the other shows or variations of it.
Well, no, because they got that theme song, which the interesting thing is it's written by Chuck Lorre, the guy who made Two and a Half Men and The Big Bang and all those other like sitcoms that are like the guy who's pretty much Mr. Sitcom guy right now. But I think it's funny because like on one of his original credits is he wrote that song.
I think
So it's just kind of a cool little like fun fact. Well, because then he also got they got the Ninja Turtles theme song that comes I think halfway into that show. I think in like season 6, 7, and 8 and 9. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtle Power. It's actually it gets catchy over time, but like it is kind of throws you off. You're like, oh, it's not the original one, but then it's still cool. It sounds when you sing it yourself, it just sounds like a modern thing. It just gets stuck in your head like that. But
it sounds like trying to relate to the humans. Hey, have you seen that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show the other day? I found it quite...
Rob, that is a great song. You should record it later.
I found it quite enjoyable, like a human would. You know?
It made me want to bop my head.
In enjoyment.
My robot cock got hard.
That's what you humans say, right?
When you get a good song, you get a hard robot wiener. I mean, human wiener.
Let's slap them together in enjoyment. Like, what?
Like what true males did back in Roman times. Don't act like we weren't watching.
We know. We see all.
The Roman times was the gayest century of man. Men literally wrestled naked in the streets while others watched. They called it gymnastics.
I want to say this real quick. We're probably going to close out the show pretty soon if I had to guess, but I just want to say this. I think it's kind of funny. I hear like a lot of like right-wing people talk about like Spartans and kind of like Roman culture, kind of like, oh yeah, well, you know, back then it was like considered to be an honor to get drafted by the I've heard like multiple like right-wing people say this, and not
that's
older
kind of where
people.
like 300. It's that movie's a very big fan, or people that are right-wing to the mass are always really big fans of that movie.
Yeah, but like,
even though I like
the wrong reasons, though. I feel like it's the wrong reason, but it's kind of funny because people
talk about they threw that retard out, like God.
Yeah, well, it's like one of those things where it's like to talk about like how like yeah, it's all about being manly. It's about being being men, being warriors, and if you got called to serve your country, it was an honor. Not all these fucking draft dodgers or people don't want to bring the draft back. Like, yeah, you know what else the Spartans did and Roman cultures did? They fucked each other. A lot, you know? They fucked a lot of boys. That's something they also did. That's something the movie left out. Maybe you should look into the whole culture before you single it.
I do that every day. What, you got a problem with that? Well, fuck you if you still shut your mouth up.
Not that I'm gay. It's just out of dominance, you know?
Yeah, you know.
Prove you're stronger than someone else, just gotta fuck them in the ass. The way things work.
Oh, exactly. Then they become your slave. Fox News. We report. You decide. Then we fuck you in the ass.
Rally factor. This just in. People apparently don't like it when we get into like gay tussles like sexual dominance. And isn't that weird, huh? I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. I thought it was...
Well, you don't like gymnastics?
Yeah.
Come on. That's where two men wrestle naked.
No, it was... What was it like? I think Patton Oswalt had a fantastic joke. Just like, I get like the most... Just like, I took my parents and my parents-in-law to Circus Soleil. And keep in mind, I'm a very progressive left-wing person, but it was the gayest fucking thing I've ever seen. There's like hedgehogs with boners riding on unicycles. Like, you know, like, I don't know what the fuck was going on. Literally the gayest thing I've ever seen. Yet my fucking, like my parents and my parents-in-law, they fucking loved it, man. They loved it. And they're like right-wing people. Like, it's like, two gay people walk in like, hey, we'd like to wear suits and kiss each other. Fuck you! Like, what if we did backflips while blowing each other? Oh, that's amazing! Can we bring our kids?
Oh, that's totally true, because whenever you look at Circus Soleil, like when they show like those previews at like the movie theaters and stuff like that, it's like, I always do it. You look at it, it's like, that looks so fucking gay. Like, why do I want to see that? Like, they're talented people, but Jesus Christ, make it look cooler. Put Batman costumes on or something. I don't know what the fuck you can do to Make it like I'm going to see the Flying Graysons. Maybe then I'll show up.
At the end, they just like they just have a reenactment. They just all follow their deaths, and then they have a little boy crying in the corner
with just one spotlight on him. Be like, Steve, is that appropriate to do? It's like, show must go on.
All right, bring out Chuckles the clown.
Look, and there's like a moment of silence. All of a sudden, the boy's there. The light fades out. Everybody slowly claps. Like he's making the best.
That wasn't part of the fucking show. I thought it was part of the show. They're going like an artsy approach, and they just have like some guy with a big ass like broom just push the bodies off the side of the stage. Leaves this big long like blood streak across.
Chuckles the clown comes out, fucking starts dancing, slips and falls in it. Everybody laughs.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to leave off with. You know, a little death, a little gayness, and a little bit of clowns. Makes for a funny night. But until then, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. Support us on Patreon if you want, and if you want to support us other ways, well, you can always leave reviews on either iTunes, Newgrounds, YouTube, whatever the hell you want. I'm supposed to Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time. Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.